Revolutionary greetings, comrades. We have been promising that we need to discuss the proposal of having IsiNguni as the international language within the SADC region. We've taken long in discussing this. In the last day or two, we've been discussing the teaching of Shona language in South Africa. There are mixed reactions to that discussion. Comrade David Masondo, the second Deputy General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, wrote an interesting article in 2015. It was made a presentation to the ANC branch, Tswana region, Anthony Lembede, on the 19th of March 2015. He was discussing tribalism, language, and the national question. And in his article, which we'll not discuss entirely for now, he proposes, which is a proposal that was made by other academics before, that IsiNguni should become the official language. But their focus has been in South Africa. We want to take it broadly to the SADC region. What motivated Comrade David Masondo to make this presentation was the demand at the time by the people in Malamulele in Limpopo province, who are predominantly Shangaan and Tsonga, were demanding their own municipality. So he was then trying to discuss question of tribalism, language, and the national question. When we're discussing colonialism in the rest of Africa, we noted that part of the reason why we took time to dismantle colonialism was that the colonizers used tribalism or ethnicity as a tool to divide Africans. We studied the genocide in Rwanda in the 1950s. We traced the origins of what we today call the Biafra War in Nigeria, which, if you study carefully, you will see the footprints of an imperialist who used the ethnicity to divide the people. And in this article, Comrade Masondo argues that language does unite. So the proposal that we are putting forward, and this I must state that is an introduction to a discussion. The proposal we are putting forward is that let's have IsiNguni as an international language in SADC region. IsiNguni, it is spoken, or for those that might not understand, historically, the people of the Nguni origin are Amaxhosa, the Zulu, Amandebele, the Swati, and many others, right? So IsiZulu, which is widely spoken in South Africa, ISwati, which is widely spoken in Eswatini, IsiXhosa, which is widely spoken in South Africa, spoken in Zimbabwe, in some parts of Zimbabwe, IsiNdebele, which is widely spoken in South Africa, mainly in Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and in Zimbabwe. And these languages are spoken, particularly isiZulu, in Malawi. There are people that in Zambia understand this language. There are people in Mozambique. I've met a number of comrades from Mozambique that converse in isiZulu. Now, if you create IsiNguni as an official language within the SADC region, international language, you know that in East Africa, Swahili dominates as an international language. We do not have an African language in our region. We have our official languages in different countries. So Comrade David Masondo, in his paper, when he was making his point, was that he was not advocating for the undermining of other languages. But he was proposing 2 languages to be elevated as official languages. But we know that South Africa is quite a number of official languages. I think it's 16, if I'm 11 or 16. I stand corrected on that. So what he says in the article, which I quote, while it is important to deal with the material conditions, that is access to basic services, that set a conducive environment for tribalism, it is also important to pay attention to issues such as language as part of nation building that facilitates better conditions for class consciousness. Language can be an important instrument in fragmenting or in constructing a nation and a working class, close quote. As I said, that his focus was in South Africa. If you look into the SADC region, there are different languages that are spoken. And as part of building African unity, you'll recall that in 2020, on Africa Day, as the Zimbabwe Communist Party, we said, let us begin to discuss what we call the reunion agenda. We'll revisit that discussion later on around May. A reunion agenda, because the peoples in the SADC region, they relate to each other. So language, as part of building this reunion agenda, does promote unity, does promote the building of a progressive SADC. Let's return to the article as we move to conclusion. As I said, that this is just an introduction to this discussion. He says, I quote, in fact, language plays a key role in identity formation, collective action, and a class consciousness. Part of nation building should include the adoption of 2 or 3 official languages that close quote was speaking in the South African context. But in the SADC region context, you are saying let's have IsiNguni as the official language. As I conclude with this part, he says, I quote, the argument for the adoption of these official languages should be clarified, lest it be misunderstood. This is not to suggest that the resolution of the national question simply lies in the adoption of the suggested official language or languages. Neither do I argue for the banning of ethnic languages. I simply state that adopting 2 or 3 languages as our South African lingua francas could set the necessary conditions for common national identity and nation building. Let me conclude by reading this. To place the centrality of language in nation building, I start by laying out a brief historical European experience on how language was used to answer the national question. This is followed by how colonial power answered the national question in the colonial context. Close quote. We will discuss this in the later video. But in discussing the national question, which Comrade Masondo was doing, you will know that in the South African context, the question of belonging in the national question was defined in terms of ethnic or ethnic language. To say you are a South African because you are Xhosa, you are Zulu, you are Venda, you are Tsonga, Ndebele, and so forth. You are not South African if you are Igbo, and so forth, right? So in the SADC region, if we were to discuss the SADC question, the regional question in SADC, if we are building or advancing the reunion agenda, it is important as we build this unity in the SADC region towards building one Africa, is that there is need for us to have an international language which all of us in the SADC region we can converse to, which is IsiNguni. Please write your comments in the comment section. Like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you're on TikTok, please do follow us. We'll continue having this discussion. Otherwise, Amandla comrades.